It's happening! After years of silence, whispers, and royal frost, Buckingham Palace has finally cracked its calm facade, and what's coming out is nothing short of explosive. The story doesn't open with trumpets or ceremony. It begins with a door creaking open deep inside the palace, one that had been sealed for years. Behind that door, insiders say, the crown signed off on something monumental. Not a warning, not a pause, but a final order. An order that would change the fate of two children forever. Archie Harrison and Lilibet Diana, the children of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. For years, the palace kept its lips sealed while the world speculated, argued, and obsessed over what would happen to Harry and Meghan's kids. The public waited, the media buzzed, and still the palace said nothing. Not one word. That silence grew heavier by the year, until it became its own kind of message. But now, that silence has shattered. The royal machine, built on centuries of rules and unshakable tradition, has quietly erased Archie and Lilibet from the royal structure altogether. No titles, no place in the line of succession, no ceremonial roles. Not even a footnote in the official records that chart the monarchy's bloodline. And here's what's eerie, it wasn't announced. No glossy statements, no televised addresses. The palace simply filed the documents. Coldly, quietly, permanently. Because for them, this isn't about feelings or revenge. It's about something older, colder, and far more powerful protocol. To understand why the crown moved now and why this decision is irreversible, you have to travel back more than a century to a time when another king decided exactly who could be called royal and who could not. The year was 1917. The world was at war. Empires were collapsing. And inside Buckingham Palace, King George V took out his pen and sealed royal destiny with the letters patent of 1917. A document so precise and unyielding that even modern royals still live under its command. That ancient decree asked one simple but ruthless question. Who is truly royal? Not who feels royal, or who's adored by the media, or who's married into royalty. Who, by law, by blood, by church, can claim the crown's recognition? King George drew 3 iron rules. First, legitimate royal bloodline. Second, birth registration according to palace protocol. Third, a recognized christening by the Church of England. Miss one, and you're out. No exceptions. Fast forward 100 years, and those same rules now stand between Harry and Meghan's children and the legacy their father was born into. The first crack appeared the moment Archie arrived in 2019. To the public, it looked like a fairy tale. A glowing Harry, a radiant Meghan, and a perfect baby. But inside palace walls, the paperwork told a different story. On Archie's birth certificate, Meghan's full name, Rachel Meghan Markle, was suddenly erased, replaced with Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. It wasn't a correction or typo, it was rewritten. And that's a very big deal. Birth certificates are sacred legal documents, not PR tools. Meghan claimed she had nothing to do with the change, that the palace did it without her consent. Palace aides flatly denied that, insisting Meghan approved. The result? Doubt. Not gossip column speculation, but official, legal doubt inside royal documentation. And in the monarchy, doubt is poison. That single alteration was enough to shake the very paperwork that cements royal legitimacy. From that moment on, Archie's place in the system became fragile. Then came Lilibet, born in June 2021. People expected the usual royal fanfare, a palace statement, ceremonial doctors, the polished presentation that marks every royal birth. Instead, the announcement came not from London, but California. No royal midwives, no courtiers, no balcony appearance, just a press release. To royal eyes, that wasn't just informal, it was unthinkable. Royal births are supposed to be national events, witnessed, logged, and archived for history. But this time, the crown's hands were nowhere near the paperwork. No royal registrar, no Church of England oversight. For the first time, a royal baby arrived without the crown's direct stamp of approval. And in palace language, that silence was deafening. It wasn't rejection in words, it was rejection in absence. Still, Meghan celebrated her daughter's arrival with joy. Months later, she shared photos from Lilibet's baptism in California. The ceremony was beautiful, intimate, emotional, filled with family and warmth. But to the Church of England, it wasn't official. The church never recognized the baptism, and for the monarchy, that alone was enough to sever the child's spiritual connection to the crown. Royal christenings aren't just religious customs, they're the legal confirmation that a child belongs to the monarchy's divine and constitutional lineage. And since that seal was missing, so was the crown's acknowledgement. That meant two official cracks now existed: Archie's altered birth record and Lilibet's unrecognized baptism. Two small pieces of paper with consequences that would shake the Sussex family's future. But there's another layer: Meghan's public image. Since her royal debut, Meghan carefully built an identity that blended Hollywood glamour with Windsor prestige. Every podcast, interview, and product launch carried the faint glimmer of duchesshood. American Riviera Orchard, her new lifestyle brand, sparkled with royal undertones, a duchess in California, raising royal children. The allure depended entirely on those royal ties. Without them, the fantasy collapses. Because if Archie and Lilibet are not royal heirs, the story changes. Meghan isn't a modern royal rewriting tradition, she's a former royal living, a private life in Montecito. The family brand loses its crown, literally. And sources say Meghan understood this better than anyone. Her entire public image, her heritage, her identity was intertwined with those two little titles her children might never have. So when the palace began quietly closing doors, Harry panicked. Late-night calls, private appeals, desperate pleas, he tried everything. People close to him said his tone wasn't angry, but frightened. He told palace aides that stepping back from royal duties shouldn't mean his children were erased from history. They were grandchildren of the king, he argued. They carried Windsor blood. Surely that counted for something. But the palace's reply was as cold as its marble halls. "This is not about emotion," one aide allegedly told him. "This is about order, lineage, and the future of the crown. No empathy, no compromise, just finality." For Harry, it was devastating. The institution he once called home was now drawing a permanent line his children on the outside. The monarchy, he realized, is not a family in the emotional sense. It's a machine, and machines don't feel. Then came the final blow. Deep inside Buckingham Palace, the crown completed the paperwork that made everything official. Archie and Lilibet were removed from the royal registry. No titles, no recognition, no place in the line of succession. Their names will not appear in the ledgers that record centuries of royal heirs. No ceremony, no statement, just ink on paper and silence. In one move, the monarchy did what no scandal, interview, or distance had done before. It ended the Sussex's royal lineage. The quiet cruelty of it is stunning. The decision wasn't vengeful, it was strategic. The palace didn't fight Harry and Meghan publicly, it waited. While they told their story on Oprah, in books, and on Netflix, the crown simply watched. Because the palace doesn't play the media's game. It plays the long game, the generational one. And when the noise faded, it struck. Surgical, silent, final. By removing the children's titles, the palace did more than redraw a family tree, it stripped away the Sussex's most powerful narrative, their royal connection. Without it, there are no heirs in California, no royal lineage, no competing dynasty. Just a couple, their children, and a very expensive silence. Insiders whisper that this was the crown's most calculated move in decades. A quiet correction of the record, ensuring control of the royal story remains where it has always been, behind palace gates. Because the monarchy, above all, protects itself. It decides who carries its legacy, not the media, not public opinion, and certainly not a runaway prince. Years from now, when someone opens those enormous leather-bound royal archives, they'll see 1,000 names: George, Charlotte, Louis, all recorded in perfect handwriting. But two names will be missing: Archie, Lilibet. Their absence will speak louder than any scandal ever could. They'll grow up far from the cold grandeur of London and California sunshine, running through gardens, laughing without bowing to anyone. They'll have love, family, and freedom, but they'll never step onto a royal balcony or hear the echo of trumpets announcing their names. Their portraits won't hang in Buckingham Palace. Their names won't be printed in the books that preserve royal bloodlines. Not because of who they are, but because of what the crown decided they are not. Legacy, the monarchy insists, isn't built on interviews, emotion, or fame. It's built on rules, rules that bend for no one, not even a prince's children. And that's how the story ends. Not with shouting, not with drama, but with silence. The kind of silence that swallows everything. The kind that means it's over. Because in the royal world, the loudest sound you'll ever hear is when the palace says nothing at all. And even after that silence settled over Buckingham Palace, there was still a strange kind of echo, a whisper of disbelief that rippled through royal watchers, journalists, and ordinary people who had followed every twist of the Sussex saga. Because deep down, everyone wondered the same thing. How did it come to this? How did a story that once began with fairy tale bells and crowds cheering outside Windsor Castle end with 2 children quietly erased from royal records? Inside palace corridors, some said this wasn't cruelty, it was restoration. That the monarchy had simply reset the line, pruning branches that no longer followed royal protocol. But to others, it felt like punishment cloaked in paperwork. The same family that once posed smiling for photos after Archie's birth was now pretending those smiles had never existed. The same palace that once wished Meghan and Harry joy and happiness at their wedding now refused to acknowledge their children's place in royal history. And you can almost picture the mood in Montecito when the realization hit. Meghan, reading the headlines, scrolling through the reactions, trying to keep her composure while the world dissected what Buckingham Palace had just done. People close to her say she went quiet for days, because this time, there wasn't a way to spin it, or clarify it, or correct the narrative. The narrative had already been sealed in royal ink. Harry, on the other hand, wasn't quiet. Friends say he paced around their California home, replaying moments from his childhood, his mother's warmth, his brother's loyalty once upon a time, and that haunting memory of walking behind Diana's coffin, learning the hard way that royal duty always came before human feeling. And now, as a father, he was realizing that lesson still stood. It didn't matter that he'd bled for his family or that he'd begged for understanding. The monarchy doesn't trade in emotion, it trades in continuity, and that's the tragedy of it. Because behind all the royal pomp and calculated silence, there are still 2 little children who have no idea what's happening. They'll grow up hearing fragments of this story, snippets of documentaries, whispered speculation from classmates, old news clips resurfacing online. One day, they'll Google their own names and see headlines asking, "Why aren't Archie and Lilibet royal?" And the answers they'll find won't come from their grandparents or the palace, but from the public. The same public that watched their parents' fairy tale unravel in real time. Yet, despite everything, there's a certain irony to the ending. In trying to protect itself, the crown may have done the very thing it feared most, given Meghan and Harry a new story to tell. A story not about privilege, but about loss. Not about royalty, but about freedom. Because even without titles, those children are now part of something the palace can't control, a narrative written beyond its gates. And maybe that's why, even in silence, the crown seems uneasy. Because it knows, one day, when Archie and Lilibet are old enough to speak for themselves, their words might echo louder than any royal decree ever could. And that's the part the palace can't erase.